Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you a really popular build right now, really awesome build for Warlocks with Starfire Protocol. I'm a little bit late to the party, but I wanted to perfect the build as much as possible before I covered it. Since when I had viewed some previously to actually, discover the build initially, stats are all over the place, mods were missing, the new fragments weren't even released yet when I saw those builds. So I wanted to get a few Titan builds out first while I was perfecting this build, and well, now I've perfected it. So here it is. So first things first, the exotic of the day, Starfire Protocol. Basically what this does is it will give you a second fusion grenade charge, and it will recharge those fusion grenades on empowerment weapon damage. Now, as far as I can tell, with testing, this only counts for Well of Radiance and Empowering Rift. Radiant itself, along with High Energy Fire and a whole slew of other empowerment buffs, do not count for this. It is just Empowering Rift and Well of Radiance. So I have decided I'm going to go all in on Empowering Rift and have a Well as a backup option as well. Obviously, for DPS, where you would actually use this build, you're going to have a Well because raid banners exist, and you don't really have a reason to use a Well outside of DPS anyway. So, yeah. So that's the exotic. Oh, actually, I think I forgot to mention, Fusion Grenade kills give you Rift energy as well, and it's quite a lot. It's like 2 kills for full Rift, so that's pretty nice. And the exotic weapon that we're going to be pairing with this is Anarchy, because 1, it is bugged, and it does 5 times more damage than it should. But the good thing about Anarchy, and also Witherhoard as well, you can use Witherhoard if you want to, is that they do background damage. So we can be sitting in a well or sitting in an Empowering Rift, and you'll just have that tagged onto the enemy. And while you're throwing grenades, you'll be getting grenades back for free. Just periodically while you're throwing them. You don't have to get out another weapon and start shooting mid-DPS phase to get those back. Anarchy and Witherhoard will do that for you while you throw grenades. You can endlessly throw grenades without any downtime with Anarchy on and Witherhoard on, and it's great. It's really awesome. So, getting into the subclass, because mods kind of revolve around the subclass, so I want to get this out of the way first. Of course, we have Well of Radiance, because we need that for the empowerment damage. Pretty straightforward. That's all that's really there for. It's also a very fast cooldown. I don't have too much int, so having this is very nice. And then I have Empowering Rift, because of course that's going to work with Starfire. We have Celestial Fire as a ranged melee. This will come in handy later on, but it's mostly there for the Scorch stacks, I'm not going to lie. We do have a lot of ways of making Scorch very, very OP in this build. So this is kind of just a nice thing to have, really. And then I have Fusion Grenades, because this build won't work without them. Next up I have Heat Rises, which is for my melee. The melee does play in getting the grenades back quickly, so I want my melee back as fast as possible too. Icarus Dash is awesome, it's great for movement. But, I mean, it has Cure as well, which is nice. But, Heat Rises just giving me free melees is very, very good. Now I have Touch of Flame, which makes Fusion Grenades explode twice. So not only are Fusion Grenades really, really strong with Ignition and Scorch, and the whole build that I just showed before, really good, but now they explode twice, which means that every single Fusion Grenade will automatically proc Ignition when we have this fragment right here, Ember of Ashes. You apply more Scorch stacks to targets. And yeah, basically 1 grenade will explode twice. It will apply Scorch on the first hit and Ignite on the second hit. Ignitions do a ton of damage. It's actually more than both of those Fusion Grenade explosions combined, especially with a mod that I will be showing later. So every single grenade proccing Ignition and doing tons of damage by itself anyway means that we have the highest grenade DPS strat in the game, period. It's actually one of the highest damaging strats currently now in the game as well. So yeah, Fusion Grenades are nuts with all this. Next up I have Ember of Wonder, which is rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions, generates normal power. I have this in here for stats, because with the stat setup I have, it's not possible to actually get this without 3 increases at least. And I do have 3 increases in this. So I need this for that. Also, the Orb of Power is going to be nice for recuperation later on, but it isn't necessary. This is mostly just here for stats because you have to have it in there if you want to achieve the stat setup I have. This stat setup, I guess I may as well get that out of the way now. This stat setup is the ideal stat setup. Of course, resilience, we need it for the DR. 40% DR is completely busted in this game, and having that on demand is incredible. Recovery, we want the highest amount of recovery, especially for a Warlock, paired with that recurve, because fast healing is nice, considering we don't have many on-demand healing skills. But also, we need it for our Rift. The Empowering Rift needs to be cooldown as fast as possible, no matter what, in every single scenario. So having 100 recurve is the best way to do that. And then I have 100 Discipline, because, of course, everything revolves around those grenades. So we want the fastest cooldown on our grenades as possible to pair with the empowerment damage increase and spam those grenades very quickly. I also have 50 dis on top of this. No, not dis. Strength on top of this to get my melee back a lot faster than I would if I didn't have any strength. There is a mod in here that is increasing my strength that you don't necessarily need if you want to free up a few, slots and play around with the build a bit more. But yeah, strength is still very valuable. That's why I have heat rises too. So yeah. Then I have Ember of Searing, which is defeating Scorch targets grants melee energy. Of course, every single grenade scorches, so every single grenade kill will play into that. I also have Incandescent, which is going to play into that as well. And also my melee and my super apply Scorch. So, yeah, we're going to be getting lots of melees. And then finally, I have Solar Ignition Spread Scorch to affected targets. This goes hand in hand with this, but it also applies Scorch to then ignite further as well. This mod is very, very strong and was not in the previous builds that I'd watched about this setup. But this one is very valuable, plus it gives you 10 Discipline, which allows you to get the stat setup I have, especially paired with this for the Recov too. But yeah, Solar Ignition Spreading Scorch is something that is going to be pretty busted with this build. Alright, so that's the subclass out of the way. Of course, I did mention I had an Incandescent mini tool. You will want this because every kill giving really high Scorch stacks, which then leads to Ignite, means that almost every kill with this weapon will ignite something. And that's really good for ad clear and really good for just messing up groups of enemies. So, mods. First off, we have Elemental Ordnance, which is, defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns an elemental well that matches my subclass. We are going to be getting lots of grenade kills because the whole build revolves around grenades. Everything is just grenades. So this is going to be very nice for proccing Well of Life, which is another one we have in here. Which is when you pick up a solar well, you will get health regen for 10 seconds. It's quite slow, but it cannot be interrupted, which is very nice. And it's a nice little bit of healing, considering we don't have too much in the build. And then I have Radiant Light for stats, as mentioned before. You can put anything you like in here. If you want Font of Might, if you want another way to make wells, if you want to go for a Charge of Light build, maybe Charge of Light with High Energy Fire, which will stack with Radiant. If a teammate gives you Radiant, that is. It's not going to be very useful for this specific build, actually, now that I think about it. You could use Firepower, you could use Heal Thyself. I don't have those in this build, but they are options. But aside from that, pairing with the wells, I have Well of Ordnance in here because I don't have slots since I'm using Grenade Launcher Scavenger for Anarchy. This costs way too much than it should currently. But yeah, because of that I don't have many slots. But again, you could use Firepower, you could use Heal Thyself if you take out Radiant Light. That's completely up to you. So, yeah. Well of Ordnance gives grenade energy, by the way, when you pick up wells. I think I forgot to mention that. And next up, we have Elemental Armaments, which means my Incandescent weapon is going to be making wells too, which gives me Well of Life easier. Just for survivability, really. And then we have the biggest mod of the day, Solar Fulmination. And this increases the damage of ignitions, and also increases the blast radius, which is going to be completely busted with this build, because every single grenade procs ignition. So now, just for free, they're doing more damage. And then, of course, they're doing more damage means they're killing things easier. And then, because of Ember of Char, they're spreading Scorch to everything. It's just... it's really busted, actually. It's really broken. And then I do have double kickstart on top of this, because I'm using an Artifice Bond, so I can slot this in. Yeah, I've got double kickstart so that I can get my Rift back even faster. That should cut it down to about 30 seconds, although with the grenades on top of that, you know, it's going to be almost instantaneous. So that is the mod setup. Everything else is kind of freelo. It's whatever you want it to be, really. I will recommend Impact Induction, of course. Again, I spec a lot into melee, and this is why, because it does have an internal cooldown, but every, like, maybe 2 seconds, I can throw a melee and get a big chunk of grenade energy, which is awesome, because I want those grenades back as fast as possible. So speccing into my melee means that I can cycle that into grenades anytime I need. But yeah, aside from that, everything else is pretty much just whatever you want it to be. Of course, I have a Siphon mod for recuperation, as mentioned, but also Ember of Wonder is going to proc that too. And that's the build. I guess I'm just going to show you a little bit of gameplay, just deleting things. Let me know what you think of the build, and let me know what you think of my version. And yeah, again, go for these stats if you can. They are quite easy to get now with the focusing strat that I have uploaded onto my channel. I'll probably have a link to that in the description or the comments, because a lot of people, you know, still struggle with getting high stat armor. I don't know how, but that video will help you solve that problem. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this, and adios.
Not sure how much of that we can take.
Challenge their commander. Bring this operation to a halt.